This episode is brought to you by Zeta Global. Do you know what it takes to transform marketing into a data-driven profit center? Are you able to align the C-suite around your AI vision and strategy? Zeta Global has the playbook to help you get started. Download Driving Growth in the AI Era today at zetacmo.ai/book. Again, that's zetacmo.ai/book. Welcome to the AdTech God Pod, your window into the world of advertising technology and the people behind it. I'm your host, AdTech God. Welcome to the AdTech God Pod, your go-to for conversations with those who build AdTech. Today we have Danilo Tauro from Aperium Ventures. Danilo comes from an impressive background, including being the global director at Procter & Gamble, head of product at Amazon Ads, and GM of Uber Eats Advertising. He's recently joined Aperiam as managing partner, so I'm definitely looking forward to chatting with Danilo and hearing his thoughts on the industry and its direction. Danilo, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for taking this call while you're abroad. I know time zones can be challenging, but thank you for taking a few moments.
Of course.
Danilo, I looked at your background. I'm familiar with Aperium Ventures. We work closely with Eric Franchi and Joe Zawadzki. I'm excited you joined them. But can you tell me how you got into the industry and what attracted you to advertising and advertising technology overall?
Yes, 100%. And it goes back to when I was at P&G. So I think the fun fact is I was not planning to join the industry. I remember when I was at university, I was taking my marketing class and I thought, oh my God, this is too fluffy. I will never work in advertising. And again, background is I'm an engineer, 100%. I did my bachelor's, my master's, my PhD, all in engineering. So I thought I would never work in marketing. Then I was at P&G and I was doing basically risk analytics. I was building products for commodity trading, et cetera, et cetera. And somebody told me, oh, the skills that you have would apply very much to marketing and ad tech, etc., which I didn't know what it was. And then I said, okay, tell me more. So long story short, I got to know what programmatic buying was, real-time bidding, etc., etc. So basically it was a lunch, I still remember. And basically from there I said, oh my God, that's going to be my next job. So long story short, I was doing something completely different at P&G, engineering background, got into ad tech because of the programmatic world. And basically that's how I started.
When you started at Procter & Gamble, this is now going back 2015, 2012, you moved from, a product manager into global director of media tech and data. How was that transition for you? And when you moved into that type of role and working on those types of products and projects, how did you feel it attracted you to it the most? Like, what was it that made you want to dig in and work in the media tech and data sector?
Yeah, so that's a discussion I often have with a few friends because they're like, oh my God, Danilo, you're so passionate about what you're doing, tell us more. And what I tell them is really about, there are a few elements that I was looking into a job. So one was the technological aspect. And after the lunch that I mentioned before, clearly the technology aspect was there. The second one is I really love to engage with people to understand, how they're thinking, what they're doing, to connect, network, et cetera, and clearly our industry is, open to all of that. So those were the two things that I was looking. And then you may say, okay, but there are different jobs that can actually fit the description. So the third criteria is, I really felt at the time, so it was 2015 when I made the switch. I really felt it was cool. And of course, now we think of, Google, Facebook, Amazon, the walled gardens, or, the new big platforms, and it looks like established business. But back in 2015, it was kind of still, I would say, emerging. So that's why I really felt it was a cool space to be. So I said, okay, there is a technology aspect, there is a kind of networking aspect, and I feel it's cool. So it's the right place to be. Then coming from a very different background, then was it also difficult to learn the lingo, the terminology, et cetera, et cetera? Yes, I always share the story, When I was at P&G, of course, everybody wants to pitch to P&G, right? Because they want to sell, one of the largest advertisers in the world. And at the beginning, many times I did not understand what people were trying to tell me or, what they were talking about. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so behind. Then reality is what happens is sometimes, people use buzzwords. So I just realized that asking, 2 or 3 questions, not only I would learn more, but I would also understand if the person on the other side basically would really understand what they're selling, or it's more like putting buzzwords together. But long story short, it was a bit of a period of learning where basically I would ask questions. And I remember, my learning was both internally with my P&G colleagues, from which, I learned so much, but also from the vendors, which basically helped me really, get up to speed with the technology, the different opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's how I got in. And I really, thank very much P&G and all the partners for basically almost the onboarding and putting up with all my questions in year 1 and likely, year 2 and so on.
I mean, I think it's still cool. I think the industry is still very cool. It's just shifted. It's funny when you look back at 2015 and where we are as an industry overall, looking at, Procter & Gamble and their digital spend. I'm sure it's increased greatly since then. And now the medians have changed, the shift towards retail media networks, the focus on that as an overall strategy, and even just the growth of connected television since 2015. It just feels like it's always changing. It's always adapting to user behavior. But you're right. I think the second point you mentioned was the networking always stays constant, even from 2015 or prior till now. It's incredibly a powerful tool for people.
Yeah, 100%. And if I think the 3 criteria, right? Technology, 100%, it was there and it's here. Networking and connecting with people, etc., still there, as we just said. But I think also the coolness area is also there, because cool. If we think, if you think, for example, even AI, sometimes, again, with friends, we discuss about, Danilo, in the era of AI, are you still, in love with what you're doing? I'm like, oh my God, whatever we are doing is actually a perfect gym, a perfect laboratory to test and to expand AI, because there are data. If you think, what do you need to basically apply AI, machine learning, etc., is data. What are the areas where you have the most data easily available? You have fintech and you have, I would say, ad tech. So that's why I think it's a cool area to be for everyone that wants to do AI, machine learning, etc. So that's why I still think the coolness aspect is there.
What took you from Procter & Gamble to Amazon Ads? The Amazon Ads business is massive today, but when you had joined, maybe not as big as it is now, but what was it about Amazon Ads business that attracted you the most? The data availability? Is it just the sheer volume of opportunity? I'd love to hear that.
One piece of context, which is as I was at P&G, so basically I was within the marketing function, within the brand function. But at the time, Mark Pritchard, CMO, just said, hey, we cannot have each single brand talking to all the technology providers. We need to create a central group which basically takes care of all of that. And I was basically part of that group and leading many initiatives there. So I got very close, I would say, to everything which is ad tech and martech. And I got so close that I said, okay, I've done the buy side. I would love to do the tech side. So that's why I think, doing a switch from the buy side to the tech side was basically what motivated me. And then the question is, okay, what specifically Amazon? So I think there were 2 trends that already then I moved there early 2021. And I think there were 2 trends which I thought were cool. One was this idea of full funnel. And so I was thinking, who better than Amazon can do the full funnel, because they do have the purchase data, so the retail media network, et cetera, but they also have the ability to potentially do upper funnel. And this is also because they have owned and operated properties with connected TV. And actually my desire was to join CTV, to lead CTV for them. And that's why basically my first assignment within Amazon was specifically CTV ad tech, which is, okay, they have a bunch of different assets from, DSP, data clean room, owned and operated properties. How do you connect, integrate, and synchronize all of that, knowing that it's not just a tool for upper funnel, but it's a tool for full funnel? So that's a bit the genesis of my interest in Amazon. So it was really CTV and full funnel coming together.
And then you moved into Uber Eats advertising, which I'm assuming has just as much in-depth data, maybe not as much as Amazon on the retail side, but the geolocation data, purchase data based off Uber Eats. How was that transition to Uber Eats and leading on their product?
Yeah, so that was quite straightforward, I would say, because also if you look at the Uber business, right, you have the Uber, the rider app, and, personally, I would define that more kind of a traditional digital media, if you will. And then you have, because you're buying attention of people on a screen. And then you have Uber Eats advertising, which is more like a traditional retail media, because you have a marketplace, you have buyers and sellers coming together. So I would say if we want to categorize what is retail media, for me, it starts with a marketplace. So that's why, as I was the GM of Uber Eats advertising, so for me, there was almost a one-to-one fit with what I was doing before, because it's based on a marketplace, based on sellers that want to advertise to buyers that are there exactly to purchase something. So I think there was a smooth transition. I think it was a different role, because Amazon was more like a technical role. It was 100% product focused. In Uber Eats, I was most responsible, was the GM, so responsible cross-functionally about the growth of the platform. But I would say it was a smooth transition from that standpoint.
So Danilo, you moved over to Aperium Ventures. You're working with Eric Franchi. You're working with Joe Zawadzki. Both have incredible backgrounds in the space. Can you tell me from where you sit today, what do you think the industry looks like 6, 12, 18 months from now? I'm sure you're seeing a very holistic view working and being a part of Aperium Ventures.
Yeah. So what I love about Aperium and what actually led me there was within Aperium Ventures. So there are different investment teams, and then the investment teams turn into basically the specific companies that they invested in and that we keep investing on, et cetera, et cetera. And so basically there is CTV, which is a topic close to my heart. So I mentioned it before. I worked at it at P&G, at Amazon. And, I think it's a topic that I think will keep growing. So I think CTV is there. There is retail media. So that's another topic. And I think it will keep growing. I think brands do want to have accountability for their spend. So the ability to connect media exposures to business outcomes. I think this will become stronger and stronger. And we see it also, the different finance media network that are being created. But anyway, so commerce media, retail media is a second pillar. There is creative tech, which I think is a team and I would say a set of tools that are being created, which I think will definitely change the way people think of the creative supply chain, from the ideation, the production, the testing, the scaling. So I think creative tech is a third pillar, which I think is quite big. There is identity, which, as we know, in a period of, I think privacy is top of mind for regulators, for advertisers and tech companies. So I think the topic of identity more broadly, I think is very big. So long story short, knowing that Aperium is basically investing in companies that will make a difference in the advertising world in the next, I would say, 5 to 10 years. So being able to be part of the journey early on, having specific teams where I feel very comfortable with, and I believe, they're going to be big teams for advertising. I think at the period where AI is changing everything that is happening. So that's, many words, but that's basically what got me to Aperium. And I know Eric for many years and Joe even before. So that's why I think it was an easy transition for me. So I'm very, very excited to be there with them.
Can I ask you a question? Just a few weeks ago, there was an article that came out about Aperium, about advice that you want to start providing to various clients. Are you involved in that in any way? Is that part of your responsibility, or is that just an overall, I guess, Aperium shift towards not only funding and assisting these startups with growth and the resources they need, but also advice and consulting type services?
I love this question, and I will actually use it to share more background on.
I would love. Yeah, because I read the article, and it sounds like there's going to be a heavier investment into advisory type services. But maybe you can explain what that means and what that looks like for the company.
Yeah, so as a good old Amazonian, so the concept of the flywheel is very dear to me, because I think it's very powerful. And actually, there is a book that was written on flywheel. I learned that the flywheel was not invented at Amazon, but anyway, so there is it's a concept which I think is very powerful. And so the idea is how do you make sure that every single effort you're doing is kind of turning the flywheel in the right direction until you create momentum, and then you become basically unstoppable. So basically this concept of the flywheel is, how do we build a flywheel within Aperium? So that was the broader question. And so of course you have like Aperium, I would say 1.0, which is more like, you invest in companies, you support them, you grow them. And I think, they were doing a fantastic job there. And then the question that we had asked as a team was, okay, what is Aperium 2.0? And so that's where the concept of the flywheel came out. And so why I'm sharing that? Because if you think advisory and investing, there is, for example, nice flywheel there. So if you are involved in technology investments, it means that you have access to all the latest trends. You really understand what is real and what is vaporware. You really understand how different companies are tackling the same problems. So I think throughout the sourcing work, you get access to a lot of information, trends, understanding, people, etc., etc. Then you can use all of this to actually support large clients, which could be advertisers, could be, established ad tech players, could be large media players. So as you serve those clients, because you have so much knowledge that basically can help them plan for the future and do product strategy, go to market, partnership strategy. So I think it's a wealth of knowledge, which is quite unique. And as you do it, basically you establish relationships with these larger clients that basically at minimum can bring back insights to your own portfolio companies. So it's like, oh my God, this is a trend which is very important. This is the dynamic. So basically it's super helpful to understand what are those high level trends, because you can bring this feedback back, this kind of understanding of the market back to the portfolio company. And at minimum, at best, you could even bring back some clients. And I think there was a public case that was promoted also a few weeks ago, which was ShopSense, the company that Aperiam invested in, and Bell Media Canada, which is actually an advisory client. So we created that connection. And I think it was Aperiam at its best, where you have an advisory client, a portfolio company coming together. And it's this kind of 1 + 1 = 3. So that's why, to your question, Aperiam 2.0, I think there is this concept of the flywheel where you have the investment at the core, but then you have advisory, and there is a nice flywheel there. But then there is also orchestration, which is how do you bring point solution to be better connected, integrated, and synchronized to serve the needs of the brands. And then there is a concept of, I would say, marketing or positioning, which also basically we can help with, given the different connections that we have with different outlets. So that's awesome. In a nutshell how we were thinking about Aperiam 2.0.
So what was the Aperiam ads, the technology layer? There was something about maximizing ad spend, as well as enterprise type curation. Do you know much about the Aperiam ads announcement as well?
Yeah, Aperiam ads, I think it's so this layer of orchestration. So the point is, if I take a step back also to when I was on the buy side at P&G, many times you get reach out from companies, they offer a solution, and that solution solves a very specific problem. To be able to drive business impact, you need to complement that solution with many more capabilities. So the point is, you can drive to the grocery store, but then you need to be able to walk in, to find whatever you want to buy, to pay, etc., etc. So if you just give me the car, I need the end-to-end solution. So long story short, the point is, how could we bring end-to-end capabilities to the buyers, to the advertisers, so that really they can focus on what matters to them. And what matters to them is what is my KPI from a brand standpoint. And then underneath, we can do that heavy legwork to make sure that we connect different solutions. And so, for example, one area that Aperiam Ads is attacking is overall the programmatic supply chain. So as we know, it's supply chain that is, Mark Pritchard used to say, murky at best and fraudulent at worst. So the point is, how can we help advertisers get more transparency, potentially reduce cost, improve sustainability, etc., etc. So basically we rely on the underneath technologies. The point solutions are the ones within the Aperiam portfolio. And then we provide a layer of orchestration so that basically we can help the technology to get to the brands, to be implemented, etc., etc. So that's what Aperiam Ads is.
Okay, so it's not necessarily Aperiam building technology. It's more of Aperiam understanding what they have at their fingertips, knowing that there's 20, 30 companies in your portfolio. And when speaking to a client, being able to say, look, here's the issues that you have and the solutions that you need. Here's 4 different companies that can solve it. We can help you utilize these tools and these solutions that we have, because overall you need all 3 of these and not one. And we can assist with this through our advisory services?
I would say yes. And so there is definitely a strong go-to-market component. So you really start from the customer, in this case, the advertiser, what's the pain point, what's the North Star, and you build backward from there, knowing that you have a bunch of ingredients. And I would say, so yes, to everything you said, there is an end, which is many times these point solutions need to be connected, need to adjust their product, need to basically, we need to build data pipes. We need to basically make sure that the end-to-end solution works. And so that's why often there is a technology layer on top to basically drive this orchestration. So it's not just go-to-market. I think it's go-to-market plus a layer of technology to drive that orchestration across point solutions.
Great. That actually answers my question, because I read the article and I wish I had it in front of me. And I read it and I couldn't figure out whether it was purely advisory services or there was some sort of technology build that's required. It sounds like there is some technology going to be built to connect those solutions together.
Correct. Exactly. So it's an orchestration technology, which you can apply to the programmatic supply chain, which is the one that, I think was discussed in the article. But then we're also basically very strongly implementing basically technology orchestration for everything, which is commerce media. So that's going to be also something that, we are trying to expand.
Incredible. What major trends are you seeing? You have a variety of technology companies in the portfolio. You had mentioned, commerce, use connected television, creative tech, utilization of AI and how that's being used across all of those things. Where are you the most positive about? What excites you the most over the next 6 to 12 months that you feel will be changing the industry for the better and for the long term?
Yeah. And I would say the themes that we discussed before definitely are hot and will change the industry as we know it today. So I think CTV will keep evolving, commerce media will keep evolving. So, from retail media, we're getting to finance media network, et cetera, et cetera. So I think travel media networks. So I think the themes we discussed before are definitely hot. So especially I would say CTV, commerce media, and creative tech. I think the one that I'm very, bullish about is AI, but let me qualify because of course everybody's talking about AI. And I think AI will impact the industry in two key ways. So one is overall workflow simplification, because, I'm sure that everybody's familiar with this concept of the Frankensteinized tech stack, right? So you build a tech stack and you add pieces and then it becomes very clunky and then it becomes very, operationally heavy and so on and so forth. So the point is, how can you simplify operations? How can you basically democratize some of these technologies? Because some of these technologies are meant to be used by enterprise. And then as you think of smaller customers, I think it becomes more difficult. So the point is, can you actually democratize the use? So remove frictions, simplify the workflow, streamline processes, and, reduce also, the cost to serve. Can you do all of that because you're using AI agents, for example? So I think the whole workflow simplification and streamlining is something which I think is going to be super, super top of mind for brands and tech companies as well. And then the second area of AI is basically AI as a new channel. And I think, more people are talking about, for example, how people are using, the different LLM and foundational models to actually ask questions for the day-to-day life. So the point is, how do we interact? If I'm a brand, how do I interact? How do I think about LLM? Is it a channel? How do I build my content to make sure that I'm well represented in that channel? Is that the only thing that is happening? Because, for example, right now, again, there are solutions that are coming out, which is, can I put a brand agent into an ad unit so that basically my consumers can engage with my brand differently? So instead of just seeing the exposure to the brand, can they actually interact with the brand? So long story short, there is area number one, which is AI for workflow optimization, but area number two, which is AI to build new ways of engaging the consumers. And I think this is the one where, there are the most opportunities in terms of it's a white space. So I think we'll see many more different business models that get created in the next future.
This has been very insightful. Thank you, by the way, Danilo. But to really close it out, I'd love to hear about what you're looking for, because there are going to be some startups who listen to this. Many of them are active on LinkedIn and X, and I engage with them often. What are you looking for so that any of the listeners who have startups who are looking to scale and grow their businesses, what is the attractive type of business that you're looking for today? Do they span across CTV, commerce, creative tech, and AI? And what do you look for in those companies to bring them into the Aperium family, if you want to call it that?
Yeah. And I think there would be even more teams that basically would fit and, deserve an investment, because I think, there is much more than just CTV, creative tech, commerce media, and AI, etc. So maybe just want to highlight these are the primary teams, but it could be more. So that's why if there are, I would say, to your question, what are you looking for? I think if there are people that can solve a specific problem and can prove, the specific experience or expertise there to solve that specific problem, and the problem is compelling for the brands, there is a strong team behind, there is the right technology understanding. I think these are all elements that are important, because I think it starts with, are you solving the right problem? Then once you're solving the right problem, do you have the right technical capability to bring a solution which basically cannot be easily copied? I think if you start putting these few things together, I think that becomes an interesting company to explore. So I think any solution that can solve a specific brand problem with the potential to scale and the technology to do so, I think that becomes interesting.
Amazing. Danilo, thank you again for taking time as you're abroad. I appreciate the time that you took out today for me. So thank you and nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the AdTech GodPod, a podcast for the people, about the people. Stay connected with me for more insights, trends, and interviews in the realm of AdTech. Don't miss out on the latest updates, so follow me on X, Instagram, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't forget, ATG Slack community has insights, networking opportunities, and jobs. Keep the conversation going and stay at the forefront of AdTech innovation.